Hi everyone, I'm Ryan here from PhotoshopIsEasy.com, where we try to make learning about Photoshop as easy and as fun as it can be. And the truth is, it's probably easier than you think. So today we've got a pretty cool project. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking multiple photos and we're going to be merging them together in Photoshop to create a panorama. Now the reason you want to do that is a lot of times when you take the multiple shots, you're able to catch way more detail and a lot more intricacies and nuances to the photo than you would if you just tried to take that same image with one photo, with one shot. Right? A lot of times you'd have to back up too much if you're doing an object or if it was a landscape, and at that point you're gonna miss out on a lot. It's gonna blur out. You're not gonna catch the details. Things that are in the background are gonna end up looking too big, and you're gonna miss what you're truly looking at. Now, if you want to do this at a really high level, your final product really depends on your initial product. So you're going to want to have a good camera. You're going to want to use a tripod so that you don't have any shake or distortion in it. You want to use a raw photo so that you can adjust your manual settings. Make sure that your f-stop is probably like f8 or better. Some little things like that. And we're going to ultimately have photography tutorials and lessons on this channel because it works so well with Photoshop, and they go hand in hand. But I don't want to dig down into all those details too much here and bog everything down. So what I specifically did with this one is we took these images using an iPhone 7. Okay, so we went down to the Field Museum down here in Chicago, and they've got if you've never been there, you really got to check it out. It's an awesome place. And they've got this dinosaur when you walk in. It's a huge dinosaur. I believe they named it Sue. And as soon as you come in, and it's massive. It's really impressive. You come in, it towers over everything else, these huge vaulted ceilings, and it's just a magnificent piece. So what we did is we said, hey, the average person is going to walk around with a camera or tripod or any of these kinds of things. The average person is just walking around living their life. You're out with your family and friends. Maybe you see something that you think is really cool and you take some shots. So we did that here. Just pulled the camera out of my pocket. It's got an iPhone 7. Like I said, not even the best one nowadays. You get an iPhone 10. Camera's much better. And we just took these multiple photos with the intention of creating this panorama from it. So let's jump in and see how it looks. Alright, so let's jump in here and see what we've got. Now the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to load our images into Photoshop. And you don't just open them up a normal way because this is a panorama and we're using multiple images. We're going to open these up a different way. So we're going to go here to File, Automate, and Photo Merge. Alright, I'm working with two screens here. Let me drag this over. Now you can see we've got some options here on the left for layout. 99% of the time you're going to want to end up using Auto. Done some testing with some of these other ones, and they're good. They've got some little different things that you can tweak, but ultimately you want to choose Auto. We've got Files. We're going to choose Browse. From here we've got our images, so we're going to select all of these and bring them in. Make sure we've got our Blend Images Together box checked, and we're going to click OK. Now here, this is where Photoshop is working some magic behind the scenes. It's going to take all these images as they come in. It's going to blend them together. Now, it's using a lot of different techniques and just content awareness tools, figuring out the pixels, colors, imaging, things like that, and it's stitching everything together. So, depending on how many photos you have and how complex the colors are, how powerful your computer is, different things, it'll take a little while to load. But ultimately, it's not going to take that long. And what it does for us is amazing, because let me tell you, if you had to do all this by yourself with all these images and you were trying to constantly blend them together using layer masks and everything else, it would be brutal. Okay. You want to talk about a no fun part of the job, this is exactly what it would be. Okay, so there we have it. So you can see down here the way it used all these layer masks, linked everything together, and this is the final photo that it gives us. This is actually really good all by itself. You think about how this would be if you tried to take it in one shot. If you just tried to take one individual picture of this, it wouldn't be as close. You'd lose a lot of detail from the actual dinosaur. Okay, you'd have to back up so much to catch the whole thing. There would be way more information in the background. There'd be a lot going on. You'd lose the detail in the dinosaur. It'd be a nightmare trying to work with it all. So Photoshop took care of all of that for us. Now, it's not perfect. We're going to have to make some adjustments, right? So the first thing we do is make sure all these layers are highlighted. Control E, bang, merges them all together. All right, so now we can start working on it. So we're going to go up here, and the first thing that we want to do is go to Filter, Lens Correction. Click over here on the custom box, and we can tweak this a little bit. Now, ultimately, all we're going to end up using at this point is geometric distortion. We've got a lot of other tools here if you want to mess with the colors. Typically, I don't like doing that. And sometimes you'll have to tweak the vertical and the horizontal perspective. A lot of times this is going to come into play more if you're working with a landscape type photo. But for today, we're just going to go up here. So you can see if we slide this to the left, what kind of an effect we get. And if we slide it far to the right, what kind of an effect we get with that. Now, ultimately, I don't think we're going to need that much with this photo. I actually like this one at about a +4. Okay, and you can see what that gives us there. So we're going to go ahead, click OK. And it makes the change for us. So just to kind of give you a little image, that's what it was like before. That's what it was after we tweaked it. Again, that's what the original image was like. That's how we tweaked it. So it flattened it out for a little bit for us. Gives us a nicer look. All right. So the next step, we're going to want to crop this. Now the average panorama is like a 3:1. So you can see that's the ratio that we've got up here. It's a 3:1. You can change it if you prefer something else. Ultimately though, that's what I really like. So we got our 3:1 ratio, and we're able to move it, and we can place this where we want. So I think we're gonna go right about here. That gives us you know what, let me tweak it a little bit more so we can get to the bottom of that foot. Move it to the right. Okay, there we go. And we're going to click our checkbox. Bang, good to go. Ultimately, to me, this image is about this big dinosaur here. I really like this one coming in as well, but this is the main thing that I want. So I want to make sure that down here we're able to catch that foot. Okay, so let me back this off a little bit, because now what we've got to do is we've got to account for some of these areas over here that are missing information. So there's a few different ways that you can do this, but one of the ways that I think is really easy and really cool is the content aware tool. So the first thing we need to do is make a selection. So we're going to choose our polygonal lasso tool. We're going to come in here and we're going to select these areas. And then once that's selected, we go up to edit, fill, and we get our fill box. Now we got a lot of different options on how we want to fill things depending on what we're working with, but today we're going to choose the content aware. What happens is Photoshop takes the information from a lot of the surrounding pixels and then determines what it would think that area would look like. And let me tell you, it does really good. That's how good it does. Right? So you can see, like, that's really good. I mean, trying to do that with the clone stamp tool or something else, you're going to spend some time working on it. And I mean, you're probably going to end up having to use the clone stamp tool anyways. For this one, we definitely do. And you'll see it's not nearly as fun. So we'll do the same thing over here. Choose the selection, fill, content aware. Let Photoshop work the magic. Control D and deselect it. And the last one down here. We'll choose that area. Fill, content aware, bang. Control D and it gets deselected. Now, sometimes that's going to be enough. You're going to be good. That photo is going to look awesome. Okay, you're going to be able to just save it and you're good to go. But a lot of that is going to depend off your original images. Okay, now if you're good at taking photos and you're following all the rules of how you'd want to do this, you're probably going to be fine. Now the reason this one needs to be tweaked more is because it wasn't taken with a great camera. It wasn't taken with great shots. It was taken as the average person would take a lot of photos. Okay, so this was just done on an iPhone 7, right? I mean, that's not even the best iPhone out nowadays. Now, you know, right now they've got the iPhone 10. The camera in it is better by leaps and bounds than the one that's in the 7. So it's not even the best quality phone camera. On top of that, I mean, ultimately, if you're taking photos like this, if you really want to get some good stuff, you're not even going to use the camera that's on your phone, because it doesn't offer you a lot of options as far as focusing. You're not going to want to carry a tripod around with you for that. But if you were really doing this, if you were doing this for real, if this really meant something, okay, you're going to have a good camera, you're going to be using a tripod, you're going to have it set in RAW so it's manual, doesn't take autofocus on it. Okay, you're going to follow all the little rules and you're going to get the best possible photos. Then when you come over here and finally bring it into Photoshop, you're going to have a lot less to do because it's already going to be such high quality. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I specifically wanted to use some photos that were much more likely for the average person to have. Because, you know, you're just going out with your family, your friends, whoever it is, you're seeing some things, you just recognize, hey, this is an awesome shot, I want to take it. And you're just going to pull your phone out of your pocket and you're going to do it. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with here. And the vast majority of it is really good after those small tweaks that we made. However, you can see down here is where we run into some real problems. Okay, Photoshop wasn't great at lining this up. Okay, you can see this bar's off. We got some resulting shadows from the bar that are a little bit off. Okay, and this is where you would dig into it. Okay, now what we're going to end up using is going to be the clone stamp tool. And let me tell you, the clone stamp tool is incredibly powerful. It's an awesome thing. But you got to be pretty patient with it, and you have to be detail oriented, and you really have to work at it. Okay, a lot more so than we're actually going to spell out in this tutorial. We're going to have other tutorials about it because it's such a powerful tool, and because you're going to use it so much, and because it's really going to save you when some things don't quite look right, when you need to make some adjustments and things like that. But it's too much for all of this. But I will just give you a quick show here on basically how it would look. So what you'll end up doing is you would take something like some stuff from here, and you're going to start to drag it out. Okay, and you can see how it would create this bar for us. And you're going to want to work with, let me bring this down a little bit. You're going to want to, you're going to have to work with different sizes, and you're going to want to make sure that you're refreshing it so that you're getting information from different areas, so that it doesn't necessarily always look the same for the coloring purposes. It's just going to really allow you to build that out. All right, sometimes you're going to use one that's smaller, sometimes you're going to want to use one that's bigger. But you can see the way we are actually going to come out here. It's creating this railing. Okay, and we're just pushing it out here and we're building it. And you can, I'm sure you can imagine just by looking at this here, not only what you can do with it, but why I was mentioning earlier about how important something at this point, something like this would be for having some patience and paying attention to detail. Okay, ultimately, that's what it's going to be about. All right, then over here you would come, you'd take a sample of the floor right here. You'd start to erase this one as it comes out. Oop, got a little thing there. We can take that out. You're going to want to keep resampling and pushing it out. I mean, there's a lot of shadows here that you would have to take into account. So you'd sample some of the information that was over here, and you'd have to blend it in. It's going to take some time. Okay, you're going to really have to put some work into it. All right. Let's zoom out here. You can see just as we started to build this rail, you can kind of get an idea of how that's going to look. Okay. But it's going to, like I said, again, it's going to take some time. You're going to have to really pay attention to detail. Okay, like this is the type of thing that is going to really make the difference on taking something from good to great. But again, for the purposes of this tutorial, we're not going to dig down into the weeds for that, okay, because it's going to take a lot. I think that's a pretty good example of how things would go. And this right here, is after spending about 15 to 20 minutes on it. You can see I really straightened this out. put a lot of the good shadows in. Again, it's not perfect. If I was making this as a product for a client, or if it was something that I was going to take and I was going to print out and frame, I would spend even more on it, right? I would straighten this line out a little bit more, tighten all that up, tighten the shadows up. A little bit here, you can see there's a problem. We would bring this out. You may even want to, think about the texture as it comes out, because you can see here where the light's shining, and this isn't a completely flat surface, but how it blends out here. Those are all the little things that you're going to want to take into account when everything really matters and you really want it to be perfect. But this isn't a tutorial about how to master the clone snap. We'll have those. Really hope you enjoy them and you can really perfect your skills there. But for what we're doing here, this is going to be good. So at this point, there's our panorama. We were able to take these multiple photos, we're able to merge them, and it gives us a lot more detail and a lot better shot than what we would have if we just took one photo and tried to capture this entire image. So, hope you enjoyed the tutorial. As always, leave comments down below. Let us know what you think. Let us know about future projects that you'd like us to work on, things that you're interested in, stuff like that. We'd love to hear from you guys. We'd love to see everything that's going on. We really hope you enjoy this one. So, until the next time, go out there and continue to work on tweaking your Photoshop magic. We hope you're making the world a more beautiful place, one image at a time.